Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Several areas in Metro Manila experienced flooding due to heavy rains brought by the Habagat.
More lawmakers are now pushing to regulate or ban online gambling in the Philippines.
Ground Zero remains where the remains of the missing Sabongeros may have been dumped has been identified.
The LTFRB is intensifying its crackdown on sardines-like crowding in PUVs.
First in the news, authorities are gearing up for the technical dive to find the remains of missing Sabongeros, supposedly dumped in Taal Lake. Here's the report.
The Department of Justice has identified the owner of a fish cage in Taal Lake, considered as ground zero where the remains of the missing Sabongeros may have been dumped.
Buhay pa yung mga tao, dinadala sa kanila, doon na yata pinapatay ang mga karamihan dyan. Grabe to. It's a very ghastly scene that we can imagine. That some people are being targeted for execution.
According to Justice Secretary Boying Remulla, the system behind the disappearance of the Sabongeros could be classified as a form of corporate killing. He said it's not just one group involved, but several, and they include powerful individuals in the East Sabong industry.
Hindi lang siya Alpha Group eh. Meron pa raw siya hanggang Delta Group eh. Charlie Group, Delta Group, Bravo Group. Tiered lang siya according to the income stream that they all receive out of this East Sabong industry. Grabe to, corporate to. Mabigat itong naging isabong kasi ang dami talagang gusto sumakay dahil may pera. Hindi nila alam, mabigat na pala ang presyo na kapalit ng perang kinukuha nila ay marami palang pinapapatay na tao.
The DOJ is now coordinating with other agencies, including the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, Philippine Coast Guard, and Philippine Navy to conduct a technical dive in Taal Lake. The DOJ is also preparing to file charges against other potential suspects in the case. Possible charges include kidnapping and murder. Previously, the names of businessman Atong Ang and actress Gretchen Barreto surfaced in connection with the disappearance of the Sabongeros. This was based on revelations from whistleblower Julie Patidongan or alias Totoy. Both Ang and Barreto have denied the allegations. Currently, 6 security guards from the Manila Arena have already been charged with abduction and serious illegal detention. Remulla is calling on other witnesses or individuals with knowledge about the case to come forward.
Mabuting maaga pa lang magsalita na sila kasi mahahanap din namin yan. The case is going to haunt all of them.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court stressed it would not take lightly the DOJ's claims that some members of the judiciary may be under influence related to the cases of the missing Sabongeros. An internal investigation is now underway. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
More legislators are now pushing to regulate online gambling in the country. Here is the report.
A jeepney driver named Jerry claims he lost 20,000 pesos to online gambling. Now he says he deeply regrets it.
Papaload ako ng halagang 300. Minsan mananalo, tapos mauubos din.
Former OFW named Don also got hooked on online gambling, so much so that he neglected his job. He says he lost all his savings and was forced to return to the Philippines, only to spiral further into addiction. Now he spends his earning as a delivery rider on online betting.
Mismong pangrenta po ng aming bahay na rarentahan. Equivalent po sa peso ay 35,000. Na-cash in ko po yun. Siguro 3 times na tatlong buwan na renta. Ang alam ng magulang ko ay naibayad ko sa monthly dues ng bahay. Hindi nila alam, kaya susugal ko. Hanggang sa na-discover na nila.
Because of their regret, both Jerry and Don support a total ban on online gambling in the Philippines. This aligns with a proposed measure filed by Senator Mig Zubiri. Meanwhile, Senator J.V. Ejercito prefers stricter regulation rather than an outright ban. He believes online gambling is an even bigger problem than Pogo.
Ito, mismong Pilipino, nauubos yung kanilang kinikita para po sa pagtaya. So yun, I think it's mas malaki yung social consequence.
Ejercito's bill specifically seeks to prohibit the use of all e-wallets for online gambling. Currently, it's easy for players to use these apps, which are directly linked to gambling platforms. Still, Ejercito is open to the idea of a total ban if regulation doesn't work.
Wallet applications should not allow their applications to be the conduits to online gaming or online gambling operations. Baka makabawas, pero kung talagang hindi pa rin, then we have to resort to total ban.
Just like Ejercito, Senator Win Gatchalian also proposed a ban on using e-wallets for online gambling. Senator Risa Hontiveros and Akbayan Party List filed a similar bill in the House, the Contra Isugal Act. Their proposal includes age restrictions, with only individuals 21 years old and above may register and participate. In a message to News 5, GCash stated that the entire fintech industry is working together on a unified response to the issue. They reaffirmed their commitment to protecting consumers and promoting safe, inclusive, and responsible digital finance. At a palace briefing, Press Officer Claire Castro said the Department of Finance proposed taxing online gambling instead.
Pag-aaralan po yan dahil baka sabihin naman nila, nako, ang freedom of expression na naman ang, ang sinasawata natin dyan.
But Senator Zubiri pushed back, saying taxation isn't the solution.
Bakit dito tayo nakatutok sa online gambling? Baon ng utang ang ating mga kababayan, yan po ang maling advokasya ng ating gobyerno.
And now let's get more insights on online gambling from Manila 6th District Representative Benny Abante. Congressman, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning po, Angelo. Angela, good morning sa inyo lahat.
Alright, Kong, ang daming versions po ng yung sa gambling, no? Yung mga bill na naglalabasan. Yes. Yung sa inyo po, ano yung specific measures or provisions na that's included in the bill na plano nyo po i-file?
Actually, unang-una, yung isabong na yan, dyan nagsimula yan sa distrito ko eh. And we actually rallied against the opening of the Manila Arena. Siguro, kinakailangan ulit namin mag-rally for the closure, the permanent closure of the Manila Arena, which is in Santa Ana, Manila, no? National Heritage Site pa itong Santa Ana at napakaraming mga religious in schools dyan. Kaya nung pa against na ako sa anumang online gambling. And that is one of the bills that I will be filing once I sit in Congress. No, ipagbawal na lahat yan. It's a total ban because you regulate that. I don't think that we have done it before, and we begin to see that they're not actually paying the right form of taxes. Marami pa rin talagang naapektahan dyan. Pangalawa, hindi lang yung online gambling, kundi dapat tanggalin na sa PAGCOR ang mandato to give franchises and licenses to online gambling. Pangalawa yan. Pangatlo, meron din akong bill na gustong i-file na lahat ng online gambling advertisements dapat ipagbawal na yan.
Okay, Kong, you mentioned earlier na matagal nagsimula po sa inyong distrito at matagal nyo na nga po ito, kumbaga hindi po kayo pabor dito sa online gambling. I was wondering what prompted you po na ngayon lang po magfa-file ng bill sa 20th Congress?
Actually, I remember na I already made it public in, I think in 2007 about the isabong, no, and the online gambling. Dahil sa itong Manila Arena na ito, dito na talaga nagsimula eh. The online sabong started at the Manila Arena, no, with actually Atong Ang. And talagang we did everything we can to not for that to continue, pero nagpatuloy pa rin sapagkat binigyan ng lisensya ng City Hall eh. And that is the problem. So ngayon, bumalik na naman yan, no? Nakalimutan na nga eh. Remember that nung yan na punta yan sa media, there were only about 34 that were killed. Ngayon, more than 100 na.
Yes,
hopefully, talagang tutukan na ng media ito until such time that the missing sabongeros have been solved. Yun po yung panalangin namin.
Kung kayo po ni Senator Zubiri, halos nagkakaisa po ng sentiment about online gambling, no, na yung iba na, total ban na. Pero ang suggestion po ni Senator Ejercito is, bakit hindi muna natin i-regulate, let's collect the proper taxes, and then eventually, if it does not work, let's move to a total ban. Ano po ang reaction niyo dito?
Well, wala pa ako nakitang gambling na nagbayad ng tamang taxes, no? Pag may gambling, may dayaan yan. Pag may gambling, may corruption dyan. Hindi mawawala yan eh. So, sa akin, regulating it for us to be able to get an amount of taxes dyan. Sabi nila, mga 50 billion a year.
Yes.
What is that compared to the very many na napabankrupt at naghihirap at napapatay tungkol dyan, no? You cannot actually equalize that, nga, no? Marami na papatay, marami na dadaya, marami na tatalo. My goodness, kahit na magkaroon tayo ng regulatory commission dyan at magbayad ng right taxes yan, how much would it cost to pay the lives of people that are killed because of that?
But also, how are we going to consolidate this bill? Kayo po muna dito sa House of Representatives kasi as the report said also kanina, meron din pong pinasa or final na resolution ng Akbayan Party List. Sa kanila man po ay stricter regulation din, lilimitahan sa 21 years old yung maaaring makapag-online gambling, and wherein yung version nyo po na sinasabi po ninyo ay total ban.
Yes. That will go to the proper committee. For example, like the Committee on Amusement, the Committee on Franchises, whatever committee. And we will try to consolidate that. Pero meron din isang kasamahan ako sa Manila, I think it's Congressman Valeriano, that actually is filing a bill for totally banning it altogether. So ipaglalaban po namin yan sa plenary when the time comes.
But I remember in one of the interviews of Senator Mig Zubiri, he's very passionate about this daw, about totally banning online gambling. Pero sabi niya talagang he would go great lengths hanggang matapos yung kanyang termino bilang senador sa 2028. Would you be that way as well po?
Yes, I'm so glad about the bill of Senator Zubiri, no? Siguro ang pwede kong gawin dyan, I will be touching base with him and to find out, because kailangan talaga namin ng counterpart bill sa Senado para makompleto ng mga bagay na ito. And I'm so glad about that. And I would like to tell Senator Zubiri that I am totally in favor of the bill also that he has filed.
And just to be clear po, Kong, when do you intend to file this anti-online gambling bill in the 20th Congress?
Well, siguro by next week, if not Friday, because right now we are refiling the bills that the Quadcom has written or drafted in the 19th Congress. Ngayon, andito na nga ako because we're going to refile that with the young guns. No? So the next would be filing the bill on the online gambling.
And then by the 20th Congress po, we'll be expecting po ang pag-reconvene ng Quad Committee.
Yes. We will reconvene that. Pinag-uusapan na po namin yan. And the first thing that will be happening perhaps would be the assignment of the committee chairmanship of all the committees involved with the Quadcom.
All right, Congressman, taking this opportunity as well, now not official na yung proclamation nyo. Ano po ang feeling nyo?
Congratulations. Yesterday.
By the way, na halos wala na pong balakid ang pagbalik nyo sa 20th Congress.
Thank you po. The thing is, I would like to thank my constituency about this. No, just to let everyone knows that ito po talagang nagpapasalamat ako sa COMELEC that they followed the letter of the Constitution. No, ang panalo po dito, ang ating saligang batas, ang panalo po dito ang taong bayan. No, hindi lang po ako, kundi ang taong bayan at ang ating saligang batas.
But having said that po, Kong, on record, you were behind around 3,000 votes during the midterm elections. But here you are nga po, you have secured...
I was behind only about 1,300 votes.
Oh, okay. So, but you have secured your seat via illegal challenge. So, ang tanong po dito, of course, yung mga critics po ay, ano pong, kumbaga, mensahe or halaga ng panalo po na inyo ngayon, kumbaga, via legal challenge po ito over voters' preference?
Gusto ko pong sabihin na you cannot misrepresent yourself, no? Or dayain mo yung taong bayan na pwede kang tumakbo na hindi alam ng taong bayan ang kalagayan mo. I mean, that is another form of pandaraya eh. You know, mananalo ka saan? So, naniniwala pa rin tayo that we are a government of laws. Ibig sabihin bawat politician natin should abide by what the Constitution says. No? Kung gusto nila maging example talaga sa taong bayan natin ng walang misrepresentation, walang misdeclaration ng kanilang COC, but in reality, yun talagang whatever the Constitution says, maging masunurin po tayo dyan.
Okay. I also want to take your thoughts on this po, Kong, kasi recently meron pong survey na lumabas from social weather stations na saying na 44% of respondents po believe senators do not want to start the impeachment trial. We all know naman po what's happening right now, yung mga sinasabi po mga delays pagdating po sa pagtugon sa impeachment trial. Do you also share the same sentiment?
Well, ang nakita ko, Angela, sa pahayagan ngayon is 44% of the people would like to continue the impeachment trial in the Senate. Palagay ko, pakinggan na po yan ng Senado, no? Kasi that is constitutional eh. For them to stop, for them to dismiss the impeachment trial, naniniwala po ako that is not according to the Constitution. Dapat binigay na po namin yan sa Senado and they have already convened themselves as the senator judges for the impeachment trial. Therefore, that ought to be started and continued on until it is over.
Pero mabilisan na po, yes or no? Do you believe po na may delaying tactics po na nangyayari?
Naniniwala ko, yes. Politically speaking.
Alright, maraming salamat po muli sa inyong oras sa Manila 6th District Representative Benny Abante. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you po, Angela. Thank you, Angelo. Thank you.
Right, PAGCOR Chairman Alejandro Tenco opposed calls for a total ban on online gambling in the country, asserting that stricter regulations should be implemented instead. Tenco shared that PAGCOR is set to sign a memorandum of agreement with the Ad Standards Council to regulate outdoor billboards promoting online gambling platforms. He also emphasized the importance of the industry as a revenue source, citing PAGCOR's collection of around 50 billion pesos in license fees in 2024, with half allocated directly to social services.
I had made my stand clear. PAGCOR is for the retention with the stricter regulations instead of total banning. In 2024, we were able to collect more or less 50 billion pesos. And 50% of that automatically goes to social services. That includes the Universal Healthcare Act, yung PhilHealth po. So, malaki po ang napupunta ron. May napupunta po sa Philippine Sports Commission. May napupunta po sa Dangerous Drug Board. May napupunta po niyan sa DOJ para po dun sa mga nakulong na hindi naman dapat nakulong.
At a palace briefing, Press Officer Claire Castro said the Department of Finance has also proposed taxing online gambling instead of a blanket ban.
Pag-aaralan po yan dahil baka sabihin naman nila, nako, ang freedom of expression na naman ang sinasawata natin dyan.
Still on online gambling, let's discuss how rehab centers are handling this kind of addiction.
We are now joined by John T., Chairman of Bridges of Hope Philippines. John, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, John, how different is online gambling, no? Yung addiction dito compared sa mga actually going to the casino? Is it may difference ba sila?
Well, there's a big difference in getting up, getting ready, hopping into your car, and then going to a physical casino. Nowadays, it's so convenient. You can stay in the bathroom while you're getting ready. You can be in the kitchen while preparing meals for your children, for your family, but you're still on. You're able to gamble, so it's more convenient.
I was wondering what are the early warning signs families should watch out for. We have different stories here featured on our news report saying na nababaon sila lahat sa utang in different instances, nagagamit yung mga kumbaga pangbayad ng expenses nila to gamble. Your thoughts on that po?
Early signs would be lying, hiding from the fact. I used to be one, that's why I know. And so I know exactly what families go through. And Bridges of Hope has been operating for almost 14 years now. And we've seen a lot of incredible impact on relationships and families.
But John, based on what you said, parang sinasabi natin na online gambling is a little bit trickier, and more difficult to curb. It's because, let's face it, it's online with direct access on your phone, which somebody needs to hold or handle every day. How do you wean somebody off that, given that he will get tempted every day because he's going to have to use a mobile phone?
Sorry, I didn't catch the latter part.
Yeah, how do you wean somebody off yung addiction niya sa online gambling, given eventually the guy you're trying to rehab or the girl you're trying to rehab will still be handling his mobile phone, and if ads do pop up, there's temptation.
Yeah, when you go through a program, these are all being educated or taught to you. These are all being introduced to you on how to basically stay out of trouble, to get you out of the exposure of going back to your old ways. So in the beginning, my experiences when my family gave me the appropriate intervention to help me get out of it. In the beginning, I had an analog phone when I came out, and then after that, of course, because I'm married, so my other half, my wife, had to handle all of our financials and budgeting. So there's a lot of ways to deal with it, and the programming will actually teach the individual on how to cope properly and how to structurally and how to actually execute the new habits and structures he has learned from the program.
But others would say para one step forward is to admit first that you have an addiction. For those who are
in denial.
In denial, what is the first step for you guys?
Well, making a decision. Remember, someone who is into it so bad is impaired. It's just like any other. The one, just like I speak for myself. When I was gambling, I did not know I was already harming myself and my family.
Right.
And so I was impaired, basically. So my family, my wife and my parents and my siblings had to step in and make a decision to help me, to save me, and to save the relationship as a whole. So the first step is to make a decision as a whole, collectively as a family.
Right. But perhaps you could tell us what kind of treatment or therapy does Bridges of Hope offer for gambling addicts?
Well, we do a straightforward treatment, meaning we don't just do one size fits all. What we do is we make sure that we validate the intakes coming from the family. So when you first bring someone in, we have to interview all the family members involved and then basically mimic their personality, so we see exactly the behavioral dynamics of the whole family towards the individual, or the bad coping skills of the individual. We also initiate a battery of psychological tests before we create a program, so that it really fits and it's a custom fit for the individual we're trying to help. We cannot really create a program without knowing exactly the comprehension level, the EQ and the IQ level of the individual. Mahirap magturo sa taong baka mamaya nagtuturo kami. he could not really comprehend and
Right.
understand us.
So for somebody to enter your program or your rehab, the person has to be totally agreeable to join the program, because the issue is sometimes interventions are needed for somebody to wake up. Do you guys assist also families who want to hold an intervention before they take somebody in for rehab?
Yes, in fact, in the perfect world, someone has to say, "Hey, I need help." But basically, I speak again for myself and many others who has gone through the intervention. We were in denial. I was a gambler once upon a time, and I thought I was not harming anyone, and I thought I could win and fix my problem. So the cycle continues. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is that families really need to really see if they really want to save someone's life, they have to come in and intervene.
I was wondering what challenges does your facility encounter doing this, and ano ba yung feeling nung nandiyan ka sa loob ng facility? Is it parang nakakulong ka ba? Or do families get to visit the ones in therapy?
Basically, that's the stigma that we're trying to break. Ever since we started Bridges, the stigma was, ang rehab ay maraming masasamang tao dyan.
Right.
And nakakulong kayo dyan. But rehab, if you see our rehab centers, that's why we're the largest in the Philippines. We have 13 operating centers currently, is because we have professionalized things. You would see it's just like a university. There's a lot of life coaching. There's a lot of education involved inside. There's even a dietitian, a yoga instructor. There are air-conditioned accommodation. The activity centers air-conditioned in all 13 centers. We even have life coaching. We even have livelihood incorporated in it. We even offer an opportunity to come for someone who can finish the program. We mentor and coach them to become addiction professionals themselves. So we give them opportunity to have better lives later. So they don't have to go back to their old ways.
And for those who are interested, John, how can they get in touch with you guys? Do you have Facebook accounts or social media accounts?
Yes, sir. We Bridges of Hope has a webpage. It's www.bridgesofhope.com.ph. And we can be reached at our hotline at 917-509-8826. And we do have free consults, and we welcome, we treat the centers as refuge where families can run to. So we're available 24/7.
And do you have any message to the family members who are maybe experiencing this problem with their loved ones?
Well, my message to them is, to appeal to their hearts that, look, if you really truly love someone in the family, please do not enable the bad ways, so that we can actually bring help and save lives in the process.
Right.
All right, thank you for that, John T., Chairman of Bridges of Hope Philippines, for joining us on News and Views.
Good luck.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Several lawmakers slammed Senator Mig Zubiri for calling Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment proceedings a witch hunt. The details in this report by Mobile Journal, Arles de los Santos.
I think that it is a witch hunt because they want to remove her from public service para yung iba makaupo.
This is the response of Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri when asked about the rumored plan of the Senate for the dismissal of impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte. Some legislators apparently did not like it. Among them is Iloilo 3rd District Representative and one of House impeachment prosecutors, Lawrence Defensor, who called Zubiri's statement unbecoming for a senator judge.
Very unbecoming of a senator judge in an impeachment trial to say that the impeachment complaint and the trial is a witch hunt. Hindi dapat nanggagaling yon sa isang senator judge who are expected to receive the evidence with impartiality and to treat the impeachment as a constitutional process.
Mamamayang Liberal Representative Leila De Lima, meanwhile, did a quick glance in the past to cite a real example of a witch hunt far from the ongoing impeachment case against VP Sara. She says the latter has a basis and went through a legal process, unlike what former President Rodrigo Duterte, VP Sara's father, did to her.
Witch hunt is out of the question here. You talk about witch hunt kung walang basehan. Pwede yung siguro na sa mga ginawa nila sa akin, the past administration, kinasuhan ako ng mga 12 bogus charges. Yun, yung witch hunt, kangaroo hearing, remember that?
ACT Teachers Representative Antonio Tino has a question, followed by Kabataan Party List Representative Rene Co, who demanded the Senate to stop its delaying tactics and proceed with the trial.
Witch hunt? Sino tinatawag ng witch?
Walang witch hunt na nangyayari. In fact, ang nangyayari ay gusto natin makuha yung Wicked Witch of the South na kung saan yung kanyang pagtatakbo ng confidential funds na ayaw niya ngang sagutin yung mga tanong natin. Ang panawagan natin sa Senado, tama na yung delaying tactics na yan. Simulan na natin yung impeachment trial, simulan na natin yung paglilitis para malaman natin kung saan napunta ang pera ng taong bayan.
On the same day, the Kabataan Party List, joined by Makabayan Black, ACT Teachers Party List, and some civilians, filed a resolution seeking to cancel the prime water deal with various government-owned water providers, citing reports of poor services.
We're filing a resolution against Prime Water, Este Crime Water, dahil sa mga napakaraming reports ng mamamayang Pilipino ng substandard water quality, mahal na bayarin kahit ang tulo naman ay papasok lang ng around 10 p.m., mawawala ulit ng 4 a.m., na napakalaking injustisya sa mamamayan.
Witch hunt or not, it is every public official's constitutional mandate to address complaints filed against them with integrity in search for truth and accountability, not to avoid nor delay it, as public office is a public trust. Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos, we are the One News.
Vice President Sara Duterte returns to The Hague for another visit to her detained father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, whom she says is now so thin. Here's the report.
Vice President Sara Duterte is back at The Hague to visit her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte. She said she's taking advantage of the additional visiting days granted by the ICC Detention Center. This is at least her third visit to the Netherlands since her father's arrest and is expected to stay until July 23. When asked about her father's condition, VP Sara said he's noticeably thinner now.
Pumayat siya ng sobra. Ganito siguro siya kapayat nung binata pa siya. So, kung ito yung braso ko, doble ma. So, doble is kalahati nito. Kalahati na lang nito ang braso niya. Tinanong namin siya kung may mga complaints siya. Wala naman siyang nararamdaman daw. So, okay naman siya. On that note, kasi wala din naman siya sa hospital part ng prison. Nandun siya sa regular detention.
Malacanang, however, downplayed concerns about the former president's health.
Sa ngayon po, dahil mismo ang pamilya niya nagsabi na okay po ang Pangulo, ang kailangan na lang po siguro niya ay exercise.
Meanwhile, VP Sara once again criticized the Marcos administration, accusing it of using public funds to fly in witnesses to the ICC.
Nakakalungkot na sinasabi nila walang ebidensya, pero meron sila ngayong witnesses na kaya naman nila pala bayaran yung yung pagbabiyahe. Pero nakakalungkot kasi sobrang bagal ng galaw nila para sa ating mga kababayan na naiipit sa kaguluhan sa Iran at sa Israel. Nakikita ng taong bayan nasaan ba talaga yung priorities ng administration na ito. Apparently, puro politika lang yung paninira sa politika lang yung kanilang prioridad.
The palace defended itself, saying that support for witnesses doesn't mean direct cooperation with the ICC. It also pushed back against Duterte's legal counsel, Attorney Nicholas Kaufman, who claimed it would submit a Senate report on the drug war to show the charges are politically motivated.
He should do better than that. He should concentrate on his defenses. He should also remember that this case was filed as early as 2017. So wala pa po si Pangulong Marcos. Dapat mas pagbutihan pa po niya ang pag-research ng kanyang mga facts para po hindi po siya maligaw.
Now in other news, the LTFRB is intensifying its crackdown on sardines-like crowding in PUVs. The agency warned that operators who allow drivers to cram their vehicles with passengers beyond capacity risk being penalized with fines and could lose their franchises entirely. This comes after the Transportation Department issued a memo that seeks an end to the crowding of passengers in a canned sardines-like manner. Traditional and modern jeepneys can carry 12 to 32 passengers depending on manufacturer specifications, while buses can carry 50 or more passengers based on manufacturer limits.
Now let's discuss that further with LTFRB spokesperson, Attorney Ariel Inton. Attorney, thank you for joining us again.
Maraming salamat po. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
So, Attorney, matagal na po, I remember long time ago, parang dinissuade na or pinagbabawal na po ang issue of overcrowding sa POVs. Pero until now po, lagana pa rin po ba ito? And gaano kalawak itong problema?
Well, tama po kayo. No? As early as there is the land public transportation, no? Bawal po talaga ang overloading. At LTFRB Memorandum Circulars as early as 2005, meron na po ngayon. Ngayon, ang direktiba po ng ating pong Department Secretary Vince Dizon, ay paigtingin. No? At yun nga po ang ginagawa ngayon ng ating pong chairman ng LTFRB, Attorney Jojo Guadis, that he reminded all public utility vehicle operators and drivers to strictly adhere to and comply with the allowable passenger capacity of their PUVs. Ibig sabihin, parang it might be being overlooked by the operators or taken for granted. Hindi na po pwede ngayon yan dahil ang napo-compromise po are the safety and convenience of our passengers.
That's right. That's right. Attorney, actually, I'd like to ask you also about yung tinatawag nilang pagsabit, no? Sa mga jeepney. Alam ko bawal po yun, pero we still see that first hand po just the other day and last week also. Ang dami pa pong sumasabit. Sino po dapat ang nanguhuli dito sa daan? Is it the MMDA officers?
Well, ang direktiba po ng panguhuli will be directed to LTO, LTFRB. It's a joint operation. Ngayon, kanina nga po, alam pong halimbawa niyan sabit sa mga traditional jeep. This is not a problem pagka nasa terminal. Yung mga nanggagaling pa po ng terminal na mga jeepneys, pag puno na, andar na.
Yes.
But this problem will arise sa pick and drop along the way.
Right.
Yes.
No? Kaya ang mga driver po, kami po ay nagpapaalala na i-dissuade yung mga yon. Okay, boss, puno na po, bawal po ang sabit. Ganyan. So, kapag ka yung mga... may nang tanong nga po na maraming pasahero daw na pasaway na ayaw bumaba. There is a suggestion na yung mga kapwa na pasahero na mismo magsabi at yung driver, pasensya na po, hindi po kami aandar kapag may sabit po din ang amin. No, kasi pagka nagkahulihan, ang nahuhuli ay yung driver at tatama sa prangkisa ng operator yun and not the erring passengers. So, we need also the cooperation of our passengers na pagka puno na po, wag na po nating ipilit na sumabit tayo kasi it will, ano po yan it will already compromise the safety of your fellow passengers. At sa LTFRB rules po, when the passenger can be can be refused in a public transport if he will pose danger already to his fellow passengers. Kapag ka overloaded po at kayo ang dahilan ng overloading, kayo po magiging dahilan kung bakit po nako-compromise yung safety ng ibang pasahero. So, ang pakiusap po natin, konting lang po, malasakit sa mga kapwa pasahero at sa driver.
Attorney?
Opo.
Ayun, alright. Attorney, having said that po, tama po kayo na minsan talaga or madalas hindi naman po nakikita yung problema pag alis at sa terminal mismo. Pag alis sa gitna ng kalsada, doon po talaga nagkakaroon ng mga siksikan ng mga pasahero sa mga pampapubliko nating sasakyan. But paano po ang mangyayari po doon sa mga areas that are NCAP? Kaya napapalooban po ng NCAP, no? Paano po yun na masisiwata ng LTFRB, paano po yun mamomonitor at mahuhuli itong mga violators na to doon po sa areas kung saan po ini-implement ang NCAP, knowing po na wala naman po ngayon, mostly wala na po talaga mga officers doon sa mga lugar na yun?
Well, yung NCAP po makakatulong kung meron pong mga violation na kapag no loading and unloading, nandun yung mga pasahero, may mga ganun pong...
so po pwede po siyang mahuli through NCAP? Ganun po ba?
Yung pong ating mga pasahero, sana po dun lang po tayo sa loading and unloading zone. Siguro yun ang isang solusyon dyan. No? At para sa ganun, hindi po, naiiwasan po yung mga nag-overload dahil pagdating doon, the driver can say to the passenger na yung mga passengers na pasaway na baba na lang po tayo dahil puno na.
So you're saying, just to be clear lang po, attorney, no, pwede din po mahuli itong mga pumapayag na masikip po yung kanilang mga sasakyan through NCAP?
Siguro po ang MMDA po makakasagot po niya kung kasama po sa kanilang panghuhuli based sa NCAP ang overloading.
Well, Attorney, I was wondering po, ano pong areas ngayon yung nakikita po natin ngayon na may mga paglabag po talaga nitong ginagawa ng mga pampasaherong mga sasakyan po natin, and ilan na po ba yung mga na-reprimand po natin?
Doon po sa kung saan location, mahirap po natin ma-identify, but you would see na mas mas makikita during rush hour. During rush hour po, yan nga yun nga. Kaya nga po yung pong bansag na parang sardinas, dyan po nangyayari. Ngayon, may isa pa po tayong nais ipaalam na dun daw sa mga modern jeepney may standing po. Allowed po yun, pero may limitasyon. Kapag modern jeepney saka mga buses, ang limit po ng standing passengers should not exceed 5 persons per square meter of available standing space.
Okay.
Yan po ay Department Order 2023-022. So, of course, alam po natin, marami po nagmamadali talaga at hindi po masyado itong napapansin. Pero ang amin pong pakiusap, sana po ay sundin natin itong mga safety precautions ng departamento dahil ito naman po ay pinatutupad ng ahensya para rin po sa convenience and safety of the passengers. Imagine if the bus will overflow, hindi masasaran yung pinto, and then kung aircon yan, hindi na kaya ng aircon, napakainit na sa loob. So those inconvenience talaga, may iwasan kung mapapatupad tong mga polisiya to.
Alright, patuloy po kami makikipag-ugnayan sa inyo regarding this issue. Maraming salamat po muli sa inyong oras, LTFRB spokesperson, Attorney Ariel Inton.
Right, the MMDA now sends real-time alerts to motorists caught under the no-contact apprehension policy straight to your phone or email. Para bigyan ng muka ang Balita Mobile Journal, Evan Trinque.
Marami naglalawang pagbabago ang MMDA due pa napadali ang prosesong malaman kung matigita ng motorista sa NCAP. Pero itong bago update nila, tiyak wala na raw pulatan dahil sila na mismo ang mag-text sa'yo. Mas pinadali at pinabilis na ang pag-aabot ng mga notice para sa mga lumalabag sa batas trapiko sa ilalim ng No Contact Apprehension Policy o NCAP ng MMDA. Inanunsyo ng MMDA na maaaring makatanggap ng real-time notifications via text at email ang mga driver na mahuhuli sa NCAP. Approve naman sa bagong update na ito ang mga drivers at riders dahil wala na daw bulaga ang mangyayari kung may violation na sila.
At least aware ka na. Hindi ka na manghuhula kung magkano na yung babayaran mo. Baka mamaya nasa 100,000 na.
Ayon sa MMDA, bagamat real-time ang text at email alerts, dadaan pa rin ito sa manual verification para masiguradong wasto ang impormasyon. Pero paalala ng MMDA, dapat ay updated ang kanilang LTMS account o LTO portal. Dito kasi kukunin ng MMDA ang kanilang contact details.
Yung basihan po namin ay yung email and cellphone number na nakalagay sa record ng LTO as of this time.
Pinaalalahanan din ng MMDA ang publiko na maging mapanuri sa mga matatanggap na mensahe upang maiwasan ang scam. Ang MMDA_NCAP lamang ang gagamitin sa text notifications at no-reply at mmda.gov.ph naman para sa email. Walang payment link na ipapadala sa mga notification na ito. Kung may link, malaking posibilidad na ito ay scam. Samantala, iginiit ng MMDA na malaki na ang naging epekto ng NCAP sa pagdidisiplina sa mga motorista. Patunay rito ang ilang riders na aming nakausap.
Kasi yung iba, hindi na talaga bumabaybay sa bike lane. So talagang pila na sila.
Unti-unti nang napaplansya ang programa ng NCAP at kasabay niyan ay ang pag-asa makatulong ito para maiwasan ang aksidente sa kalsada. O about Journal Iba Triki po Haki, ang Bukano Balita.
In other news, 2 foreign ships with Filipino crews were attacked by Houthi rebels, according to the Department of Migrant Workers. The MV Magic Seas with 17 Filipinos on board was attacked on July 6. All crew were rescued and are now safe, but the ship was abandoned due to damage. On July 8, the MV Eternity Sea, carrying 21 Filipinos, was hit by drones and grenades, damaging its communication systems. Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Kakdak reiterated that Filipino seafarers have the right to refuse assignments in dangerous areas, including the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Defense Secretary Gilbert Chodoro said the Philippines cannot immediately accept Japan's offer to donate 6 decommissioned warships, despite calling it a significant opportunity. He said the ships must first undergo a joint visual inspection. He added that compatibility with the Navy's current systems and technology must be assessed. Chodoro also cited the cost of refurbishing the vessels, which have been in service for nearly 30 years. He made the statements during the Pacific Amphibious Leaders Symposium 2025, held for the first time in the Philippines. The event gathers defense leaders from over 30 countries to boost cooperation amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific region.
We will have to depend on the fit that it will have with our present fleet and how we can integrate them, if at all, if ever.
In sports, Alas Pilipinas is set to compete in the Southeast Asian Men's V-League. Being bronze medalists in the two legs last season, Alas Pilipinas seeks a higher podium placing this time around. The Southeast Asian Men's V-League unfolds later today at the Candon City Arena in Ilocos Sur. First up for Alas Pilipinas is Vietnam in the 6 p.m. match after the 3 o'clock showdown between Thailand and Indonesia.
Now, a food business in Mindanao is making inclusivity part of its operations by hiring and training workers with disabilities. Para bigyan ng mukha ang balita, Mobile Journal, JF Rivera.
Sa isang workplace, communication is the key. Pero paano kung ang katrabaho mo kinakailangan ng ibang pamamaraan ng komunikasyon?
Inclusivity. Iyan ang advokasya ng food business owner mula Mindanao na si Greek Bautista. Kaya naman, hinahangaan siya sa kanyang negosyo na hindi lang Instagrammable dahil sa aesthetic na lugar, may puso pa para sa mga kapatid nating PWD. Hinangaan si Greek dahil siya mismo ang nagtuturo sa kanila kung paano ang trabaho.
Dati 7 lang yung core values na ginawa ko. Ngayon 8 na. Pang 8 na po yung inclusivity hanggang sa nagtuloy-tuloy na. And now, sabi ko, hindi pala hindi basihan yung nagtapos ka or anong estado mo, PWD ka, as long as meron lamang tayong sinusunod na standard at naituturo natin ang maayos sa kanila.
Maski raw kasi siya, kinailangan din naman ng tulong noong una. Lalo't nagsimula siya sa pagtitinda ng lumpiang sariwa noong working student pa siya.
Nag-trending po yung dinideliver ko that time and I decided na mag-put up po ng maliit na restaurant po na 4 na table lang.
Nang makapagpatayo ng sarili niyang kainan, kasunod nito ang paghahanap ng makakatulong. Mukhang imposible raw noong una mag-hire ng PWD sa workplace niya, pero kalaunan nakita niya raw ang determinasyon nila para sa kanilang trabaho.
Actually, hesitant din po ako. Pero nung nasubukan ko po na bigyan ng pagkakataon at matutukan yung mga klase ng mga empleyado like yung mga PWD, mas lalo po tayong nai-inspire. Nagiging ehemplo actually sila, sir, sa ibang mga empleyado natin na talagang kung sila nga na may mga special needs sila, nagagawa nila ng tama yung trabaho nila, how much more doon sa mga normal na empleyado natin. Actually, nakikita ko yung nag-i-enjoy sila sa trabaho nila.
Para kay Greek, mahalaga rin na pagkatiwalaan ang kakayahan ng mga PWD.
Subukan po natin yung mga kakayahan nila at doon po natin makikita yung importansya ng inclusivity, especially sa workplace natin. So for me, talagang nagbibigay siya ng kulay, especially doon sa workplace nila, na mas ma-inspire pa silang magtrabaho araw-araw kasi alam nila na may mga taong kagaya nila na willing din magtrabaho at sila din po mas tumataas yung commitment nila na magtrabaho pa.
Maliit o malaking businessman, pinapatunayan ni Greek na hindi hadlang para kumita ang pagkakaroon ng puso sa kahit anong hanap buhay. Mobile Journal, JF Rivera po, hatid ang muka ng balita.
Oy, may update ka, di ba?
Okay. Recently, or this just in, former DTI Undersecretary Attorney Ruth Castello has been named the new spokesperson of the Office of the Vice President.
So wala na si
Attorney Michael Powa kasi was
baka he has a different role or he joins the impeachment team?
Ito pa lang yung alam natin na pagbabago. So dati siyang DTI Undersecretary si Ruth Castello.
Alright, and before we let you go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Mahatma Gandhi.
I forgive you. Okay.
And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.